Welcome back to another episode of Ball Over Passion. We're here with the Watford preview, and we're joined by some old guests, both, in a couple senses, past guests, but also another older voice to calm us all down because, we're all a little crazy. Nah, mate, lovely to see you again. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, buddy. It does feel like it's been ages. It feels like a long time since I've been on your podcast. Um, yeah, thanks for the old thing. That's good to know that everyone's got that respect.
Yeah,
Right,
we're really big on respect here, right?
yeah. If I go silent, just call the ambulance. Yeah, I'll give you the address later on the chat.
Good. Medical
Cool.
alert.
Yeah.
And yeah, Z, mate, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Firstly, happy birthday to CK.
Yeah.
He's not on today, but I think he might join at some point soon. But yeah, hope he's having a great day. And Curran, hope he's doing well as well.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Let me just back up on that and wish CK a happy birthday. Yeah. And listen, he doesn't need to be coming back here doing a podcast. He needs to be enjoying himself. He's a young guy. He needs to go out there and enjoy his birthday.
absolutely. So, he's got a big birthday coming up, and I'm hoping we get maybe a little bit of a side shot of him kind of, out of the lineups, maybe at a club or something, and he'll join in and maybe say hi. But, big congrats. Please, all the comments, make sure you wish CK, God, I hate that. He's Chris to me. Every time I look at that, I gotta say CK. It just weirds me out. But yeah, make sure you wish Chris a big happy birthday. And guys, we're gonna get right into it. Watford. So listen, I've heard a lot of stuff. I've tried to listen to a lot of these previews, but everyone keeps like skipping over the actual analysis on Watford, and I think it's just because it's almost a foregone conclusion. And when Arsenal get faced with that, it's never a good thing. What do you guys make of essentially Watford's season, their switch from Ranieri? Because their start to the season and what Ranieri's tried to do right now, I'd argue, is a little bit interesting, almost Liverpool light when he was definitely there. But I'll go to you first, Nam. Like, what do you make of the changes that Ranieri's tried to bring for Watford to kind of stave off their season?
It's difficult because I think, to be honest, he hasn't had much time to go in there and start working on what he wants to do. But I mean, I'm going back to what I know of Ranieri. I mean, I think he was different at Chelsea because he had more weapons, and the pressure at a top club is different to setting up the play for a team like Watford. I think he is going to revert back to what he did at Leicester City with Watford, because if you look at the team, and I was analysing the lineup, their greatest strength is their forwards, and they're all very quick. I think I was looking at a stat where they're all around 34 kilometers per hour. Their top speed for all three of their forwards, plus one other guy that I haven't heard before. And I
Pedro,
think
maybe?
that's it. And I think we've got to be careful about that. I think if you look at the way Man City played Man United today, I think you would see that's probably the kind of approach I think Arsenal should sort of adopt tomorrow. I think we've got to be patient. I think it's not one of those kind of things where you turn up and you're going to pick off Watford straight away. I think we've got to be really patient. We can't afford, in my opinion, to give them possession or space. So we have to really control the game. We have to be patient tomorrow. I think fans. It's lovely to see fans get excited. By the way, I don't want to ever dampen the excitement down, but I've been supporting the club. I'm a little bit what I would call superstitious. I don't like us pretending, or not pretending, but to get over optimistic at games and have bankers. There is no such thing as bankers in the Premiership. I think Mikel will be very concerned about what those attacking players could do, because we can neutralize that and we can be patient tomorrow and control the game from start to finish. I think that's what I'd be really looking forward to.
Yeah,
And
mate.
looking.
Like, I think a big thing is I think a lot of fans are looking for a statement per outcome. Maybe not performance, because you know what? I'd argue that there's been plenty of statement performances this season. And some that have sustained longer than others. But I think there's a lot of fans that, I'm looking for that 4-0, that 5-0, that big outcome. And I'm not too sure if we're really going to get that tomorrow. I'll be honest with you. But Z, mate, I'll go to you first. Ranieri, what do you make of his changes, his start? I have noticed a very Liverpool light setup. So what I mean by that is traditional 4-1-4-1, or your 4-4-2, whatever kind of iteration you want to go with it. It kind of depends on if he has Yao Pedro available, it seemed. But it very much was that 4-4-2. Do you see us matching up in the same way? Or are we going to change things and revert
I
kind of
don't know. I mean,
formation? What do you think?
to be fair, look, everybody I've been speaking to, and this has been going for the past few weeks actually. Like everybody's, looking at this game as the game that we're probably going to stat pad and, bring up our goal difference. And I don't know. I mean, whenever it comes to games like this, it's always the opposite really, and sometimes we struggle to score. So I don't know. I feel like we might just see the lineup that we saw against let's say Burnley, for instance. We might have Odegaard instead of Lacazette in, so that we can probably play against Ranieri's team. And to be fair, like the way Ranieri has set up with Watford, it's a bit different to how his usual teams actually set up. Usually, he actually sets his teams up in a low block with a view to counter attack teams. And he had, like, for example, when his team is with Leicester, it was Okazaki and Vardy, and the rest of the team was just low block in a low block. But with Watford, it's more of a high press, and like you say, you see Liverpool light basically, and I kind of see it where they try and press higher up the field. But I don't know if they're going to do that against Arsenal. I feel like that would probably be a bit they'll just hand the game over to us, and I feel like they'll revert back to a low block where we might struggle to create chances unless we're on the top of our game, which is why I think Odegaard will probably come in instead of Lacazette, and we'll probably play with a similar system that we played against Norwich and Tottenham. Really, what do you think?
I don't know, mate. I'm caught in two minds because I think what Nam was saying about not giving them space is exactly right. When you look at their squad, they have a lot of very high quality transition forwards. Even in the predictions pod, at the beginning of the season, I tipped Watford to have a very good goal output because in attacking potential, they've got Josh King, Ismaila Sarr, Yao Pedro, these types of leggy forwards, but really their defensive line is actually their undoing, really. And even in midfield, they still got Sissoko, and I think Kuka, who again aren't the most athletic and mobile kind of midfield. So for me, they definitely look to kind of press a bit, but really release their forwards. If you give Watford space and kind of the legs to run, I think they have the opportunity to really, really hurt you. And so for me, I would almost want to start strong with a big press with Laka, but introduce Odegaard later on to kind of make a controlled possession. Like that would be my tactic to control the space, because for me, I want the legs to begin with, and I kind of want to end the game early, but do a better job of what we tried to do at Leicester, which was very clear that once Laka got tired at like 60 minutes, we tried to introduce Odegaard to get a handle on possession. I don't think we quite did it at Leicester, but I think that kind of game plan, press hard, secure the game, and then controlled possession should be our tactic in this game, because again, they do have outlets. They do have things that can hurt you. And, although it's not quite the Jamie Vardy quality, it's a similar threat. It's a live wire outlet that's very pacey, and they are clinical. Ismaila Sarr is a winger I absolutely love. So for me, I might be a little bit different to you in terms of starting Odegaard. I'd have Laka, but, Odegaard would be my finisher in an aspect. And that's kind of how I would go. I'll go to Nam, mate. Like, how do you see Mikel setting up? Like, I anticipate a similar lineup. I think the big question is Odegaard, Laka, but I think formation-wise, tactic-wise, we're going to continue with kind of our 2-4-4 build-up that we've been doing the last couple games, and kind of the same 4-4-2 in broad terms overall. Like, do you see that similarly, or would you prefer to see Odegaard from the bat?
It's difficult because I think, honestly, I think a flip of a coin, it could be. It depends on. I think the element that we don't know is what's gone on in training this week, right? Because I think you have to sometimes, as a coach, judge the energy. That is Odegaard coming back to the form that he can come and control the game, or is he still off form? Is he still working through the injury? And we know he's not on form. We know a lot of the issues with him and Curran and Pepe are similar. They're not on form, so I think they tend to keep. I think Mikel tries to keep players out now because he's got a squad now he can work with. He's got alternatives. So if he feels that Odegaard can't do it from the start, he won't risk him at the start, but he definitely we'll bring him on. If he's been tearing up in training and he looks like back to his old self, then I think he might be a little bit more cautious, because I think he'll be a lot more cautious with Watford than people give him credit for. Because I think what they did to Everton was interesting. I think Everton, in that Everton game where Everton controlled the game first half, they looked like they were going to, they could score that second goal and they were going to go away and win it. And then I think they made a couple of substitutions and it just changed the game completely. And they were getting caught on transition time and time again. And they couldn't stop. That took me back a bit. It was interesting because I watched that game really closely because I wanted to know what happened, because Everton looked really solid up until that game, right? They'd lost a couple of games, but all the games were quite close. But this game looked like it was crazy. I wanted to know if it was just, a crazy moment, or what was going on. Was it Watford that was, causing the issues, or was it Everton shooting themselves in the foot? And I think it's a combination of both. So I think I have a lot of faith in our back line and the way they are set up. What we don't want to do is lose control of the game. I don't feel like even against Leicester we were we gave them possession, they created chances, but we were comfortable with the way we were set up. I don't think we want to risk doing that 2 games in a row by giving Watford. I don't think Watford have got the quality in midfield to be able to pick up their runners like Leicester have, if you know what I mean. So for me, it's difficult because the one element that I can't see this week is how's Odegaard trained, how's Lacazette trained, right? Because I think based upon that is how I would go about setting up the team. But honestly, I think it could go either way, George. I think he could choose easily to play Lacazette from the start, or he could, like as he was saying, Odegaard from the start. And for me, either ploy could work depending what the whole game plan is, the overall game plan is.
You're mute, mate.
There we go. Starting strong. No, I was going to say, like, I wanted to keep the momentum going in a sense. I felt that there was such a good energy between the team. There's such a good energy online in the fan base. And I just feel that we struggle in terms of giving up the narrative too often in games, whether that's, Spurs in our good performances. I think Villa's probably our longest sustained performance of about 70 minutes. But, this team does play in spurts for me. And I haven't seen us do quite well when we go behind. I haven't seen us do quite as well when we give the other team the narrative. We've definitely kind of our strong starters in the last couple of games. And I think our better performances have been when we are those strong starters. And, I'm with you in a sense, Nom, where I think you definitely look at the players, you see who's in form, right? Who's up for it, because people in training surprise you. I don't think people predicted Tavares to be this good, this quick, or at least perform this well, this quick. But I'm sure in training they were seeing these kind of things. And just for me, I just want to control that narrative a little bit more. I really want to not let us be complacent. And I feel as though a press, if you really do that, it kind of gets in the players' minds. You don't let up. And if you can control possession later, it's something more I prefer, but I think that's maybe a subjective bias thing. But Z, mate, like I'll do it to you kind of lastly. You did mention that you kind of wanted Odegaard to start. Was your plan thinking that Watford would be a little bit more low block in this game, as opposed to maybe getting higher off the gate, and then you want the Odegaard to maybe pick the lock a little bit more? Or are you kind of switching to a press? Like, what are your thoughts about how to attack this?
I just think like the way Ranieri has set up against Arsenal in the past as well is it usually has been in a low block, and I feel like we won't be utilizing it very well if we bring in someone like Lacazette, because there'll be less spaces to attack, and I feel like someone like Odegaard can come in and open a lot more spaces with his passing. And to be fair, like it's just the way the game will go, and I feel like Ranieri would probably look at this game as like a game that is going to be quite difficult for his team, and he probably can hit us on the counter attack, which is why he probably will set up in that kind of low block. It's just a mad feeling, and just the way his team has gone. Even against Southampton, if you look at the way his team was setting up, his team was obviously pressing high, but you could see Southampton was opening them apart, and I feel like that's something that he probably will be cautious of, because we're much better at Southampton now, picking teams apart, and it will literally be like they'll hand the game over to us if they set up the exact same way they did against Southampton. And their result against Everton it was an anomaly in my opinion. I feel like Everton just imploded because of Rafa's pragmatism. He does a bit too much, and so in that game I think he stepped a bit too far in that game. So I wouldn't look too much into that game. I think Southampton was the game to see how Watford set up, and I feel like if he did again set up that way, it'll be very very easy for us to win the game.
Yeah, mate. I think look, the big thing is you can't talk Watford and not talk about their defensive record, right, guys? Like I think as much as you want to always look at the tools that could maybe hurt you in a sense, which they have great outlets. I'm actually really confident just because Ismaila Sarr and Josh King, who really like that right channel, is against our best left channel, in my opinion, in kind of Gabriel, who's just in imperious form. And so I'm not too worried in terms of the 1v1 matchups. The one question I wanted to rotate to you guys. So Kieran Tierney, he's back in training. He's fit. I really push back on this idea for people. Like these guys are elite athletes. Like if they're training, they're fit. But the one thing that maybe he doesn't have is match sharpness. And when you're facing Ismaila Sarr, I rate Ismaila Sarr absolutely insanely. Like I think he'd be a very smart purchase for us, for Liverpool, for any top 6 club. He is somebody that loves space. He gave us a torrid time, in the Europa League. And he is a player that loves kind of out to in runs. He's very good with movement. He can go in and out. For me, he's a sprinter. He's a leggy sprinter. And the one thing that, really kind of goes in terms of injuries is not so much keeping up pace and athletically, but it's that recognizing that position, that kind of match sharpness about where you need to be and when can take a little bit of time to catch up. I'll go to Nam first, mate. Like, are you inputting Tierney or are you going to keep Tavares for this one and let kind of Tierney build up match fitness with Scotland? Because he will get games there.
I hope he doesn't play for Scotland. I hope he goes and trains with them, because I think the problem with Tierney has been that he's overplayed for a long period of time. He's not really had a period of rest. And he's quite an intense guy. So he doesn't know how to play at 80%, and then when he can't play at 100%, you don't see the same player on the pitch. And that can be hugely frustrating for him. And I think he ends up in a vicious cycle where he keeps on pushing himself. And that's usually when he has a breakdown or an injury. And we saw it last season. We saw it that he was getting to that point where, his output was drying out because he was exhausted and he was being overplayed. I would keep Tavares because I think I'd rather Tierney have that prolonged rest and give himself time to sort of get himself back into the shape that where he can show up his best form. I think it's important for Tavares to keep his development going, and I think the added tactical benefit of having Tavares in tomorrow's game is that he can come inside better than Tierney. And I think tomorrow, if we're going to try to control the game, having an extra body who can come in and sort of add to the midfield for us to overcome their midfield, which I think is a weakness, to be honest. I think
Sissoko is who I'd target, mate.
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying. So if you want to keep Ismaila Sarr occupied, I think Tavares going forward with his powerful runs and going inside poses Watford problems in 2 ways. One, it pushes Ismaila Sarr back more and doesn't allow him to have the ability to get forward as much as he wants. And the second thing is it pulls one of their midfielders, if he goes infield, towards them and creates space for our other midfielders. So I think as long as we're controlling the game, I don't think Tavares is going to be much of a liability. And that's the key facet, controlling the game. Because if I thought they had a Tielemans, like Watford had a Tielemans, then that's where I worried about his play against Leicester. Because one of the things we looked at with Tavares, the only flaw that I think he still has to work on is he still has to work on his defensive side of his game, and he still has to work on his concentration. Although, to be frank, give the guy credit, because I thought he was excellent in all those aspects in the games that we've seen him so far. And I think you can clearly see he's been coached on those aspects, and the coach has been getting their hands on him and sort of going through those weaknesses that we spotted earlier. So I think he keep Tavares and let Tierney fully recover, because I think that's important in the long run. You don't want to rush him through, and you're right, George. You sort of alluded to it, and I think the same thing. You don't want to risk on your return from injury to be given a high intensive game where Kieran's going to do his best work when he's in that final third, right? Out on as an outlet. I think with Tavares, what we've learned is we can use him, and all we need him to do is just to focus on his final product. So I think he rushes that, or sometimes slows it down. I think Laka got frustrated when he didn't play that ball. Do you remember when he made that inside run? So honestly, I just think we should be patient with Kieran. We should give him time. I think Tavares has added something else to our game. I think tactically it will add to the game tomorrow. So I think it's nice for us to be in a position where we feel confident with our backup that he could do a job tomorrow. The only worry I have is that if we lose control of the game, that Sarr has the ability to give any fullback a real going at, on that flank.
And I think it's a good physical matchup because, the one thing is you can't move Tavares off the ball. Like the one as a physical build, he's got the pace for sure. Defensively, I do worry, but just he has an ability to dominate his space, which is one thing I do like. And I find with Ismaila Sarr, he's not that close combination player. He really is that, hate to be kind of out to tropes, but that really pace power narrative where he rolls you and he can really control things. So I think it would be a good matchup for him. And by the way, I'd love to see that data point too. I think it's unsmart to really put Tierney in because of that match fitness side. I think the defensive positioning and like the pace of the game being out for that long against a very high intensity sprinter is a recipe for disaster. But I'll go to Joseph first, which is his debut on the channel. It's nice to meet you, mate. How are you? Sorry, I don't think we can hear you. Do you want to try popping in and out? We'll go to Z then. Z, mate, like, what do you make of this Tavares, Tierney kind of dynamic? Are you kind of in agreement with me and Nom? Like, do you think play the man in form, don't risk Curran? Like, or do you believe he can just start from the get-go?
No, I mean, I'd love to see continuity, and so I'd keep Tavares. I think he's had a good balance with the team, and I think he brings something different. I feel like with Tierney being the team, he's an outlet. That pretty much is that's pretty much on the outside, but I feel like someone like Tavares, he goes within the inside, and it gives us a bit more variation in attack, which is something that we haven't seen from Tierney, and I feel like someone like Tierney, he probably needs rest. I feel like despite him recovering from injury, I feel like he just needs a good 5-6 weeks rest because he's never had the opportunity to like rest. I feel like he's always been playing, and that's purely because one, Kolasinac wasn't good enough, and two, we never had like a backup. So it's credit to Arsenal for recruiting in a competent left back in Tavares. So yeah, definitely I'd keep Tavares in. And to be fair, I feel like he's built up a very good relationship with Emil Smith Rowe already. I feel like some of the balls that he's hit to Emil Smith Rowe, out wide has been brilliant because because when he hits those early balls out to Emil Smith Rowe has plenty of space to run into, and it's almost become like a weapon, for us, and like I said, it's something different that adds for us. So yeah, I'd keep Tavares.
Yeah, mate. Like, I think one thing that Nom mentioned that I really liked was this idea that he can come inside, which Tavares can. And who's on that side, guys? It's Musa Sissoko. And for me, this is not the Musa Sissoko of old. He's a 32-year-old Musa Sissoko. And I just feel that, look, I think it's the right decision from a Tierney perspective, but also just tactically, like they're going to try to release Ismaila Sarr. Really, with Everton and their one success, they tried to go route one in that aspect. They bump off Josh King and release Ismaila Sarr. Like that's their ploy, but there's a big gap in there for Musa Sissoko to cover typically. And Ngakia, I don't trust defensively. That corridor between him and I think it's Troost or Cathcart, one of those two center backs, like that kind of pair at the back along with Foster, it's to be got at. And for me, I think with Tavares being able to cut inside, he can really isolate Sissoko, and I think we saw that with Leicester to a lot of really great degree with the space that Tielemans offered. But I think we'll see something a little bit different just with Musa Sissoko not able to have the legs. So for me, I think that Tavares is absolutely the way to go from a lineup perspective. I really like the way that Oba's playing as well. I think that dynamic suits them, you know. Joseph, mate, we're going to try to go back to you. How are you doing, mate?
Guys, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. So
All right.
I'll go to you for the Tierney Tavares kind of debate. Where do you stand in terms of who should be given the starting berth?
For me, like the moment I've heard about Kieran Tierney, he's been my favorite player for the longest time. So when we did sign him in the Emery, I was over the moon. And since then, he has still been my favorite player. But I don't think you can let him get straight back into the team, especially in the form that Tavares has showed in the past few weeks. And also what you were saying earlier is absolutely right. Tierney pushes himself to the max every game. So the moment he doesn't have his fitness, he doesn't play as well as he should be playing, or as we're used to seeing him playing. So until he gets his match sharpness back, I don't think he should be in the team. And he is an important part of our team, but I think Tavares has shown that he's more than capable of taking that spot from Tierney, especially when man's not fit enough to be playing. I mean, you can say it's just Watford, but I think we should reward Tavares for his good form recently. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear that for sure. I mean, again, when I look at this game and I look at Curran, just in general, I urge people just to get comfortable with us being good again. And so what I mean by that is this isn't a slight on a player. Like when you have these debates, these are things that we've been searching for, and the fact that we're sitting here comfortable putting Tavares in without Tierney, I believe, is the distance of how this team has progressed. So what I mean by that is last season you remove a Xhaka, Tierney, this team was debilitated. It could not replicate its same attacking patterns. And you know that idea that Tavares has been bought, but also able to replicate this, but not make us fear for Tierney's absence, not make us fear that we have to rush him back from injury. That's the marginal gain for me that these players like Lokonga have even been able to show in Granit Xhaka's absence. Like I think this is huge. And look, in terms of Watford, because I do want to keep it specific and I don't want to get too blown out, but I think the fact that we're having these debates is healthy. I will reiterate, I think us having a strong bench and us having strong options in competition is what's going to drive the quality of the play up. So I couldn't be happier. Maybe before we go to predictions, I'll go with like starting 11s, what people think that we will go with and what Mikel will go with. So I'll start with Nam, mate. What do you think Mikel will go with?
You really put me on the spot here, George, because to be honest, for me, it's very difficult to predict. I think it could go either. I was thinking that if Odegaard's had a rest and he is back to what we think it could be nearer to his best, which can be sometimes difficult. I think the problem with him is he might have got a knock and he was playing through with that knock. And I think that's where Laka was coming in form. We saw that he was in good form in the cup games. I think Laka in the Leicester game, after we did the initial bit, which was to dominate that first 20 minutes, he couldn't do what we wanted him to do in that part of the game. And I think when Odegaard came, you're right to an extent, he did make an impact, but he wasn't the exact impact. But by that time, he couldn't do it by himself. No one single player can bring the control back. It has to be a collective effort. And I think at that time, it's very difficult when the team's sat back for a long period of time to suddenly switch back into take control of the game. I think that comes with being young and the collective youth of the team not knowing what to do to be able to wrestle the control back up in a game. So I think this is just my thing. I think he will probably play Odegaard because I think he's worried about transition. I think he'll try to control the space. I think he'll try to do that. I'm not sure if this is based on training. So I think if he goes to control the space, I think he will look to see if we put pressure on Watford without as an aggressive press as we put on other teams before. Because I don't think, this is the thing. I think Ben Foster's kicking is suspect in my opinion, right? I think Schmeichel's a better kicker of the ball. So I think any modicum of pressure on them will be making them kick long and we can win the ball back early. We can then take that ball and control the possession better. And then it's just about being patient, finding opportunities and taking our opportunities. Because we know that they will put a concerted effort in to sort of stay compact. But if we can find that one or two chinks in the armour, and take the lead and then keep control of the game, they will have to push out that low block sometime. And that's when you bring, I think, Lacazette on and set ourselves up for a counter where we still have control, but we can exploit even more space. So I sort of go along with that. But I can honestly, putting my hand up, I would not have a problem if you decide to start with Lacazette tomorrow. Yeah, either way, I'd be happy because I can understand what he's trying to achieve with both scenarios.
Yeah, I don't think it's wrong either way. I mean, you've got I personally do think that Watford will try to stretch their legs only because of their lack of defensive ability, and they don't progress the ball. I think they really look at Yao Pedro. They look long. Ben Foster, you're right, the kicking's poor, but even if he does, he looks to pin Josh King, who I think is going to be gobbled up by Gabriel, if I'm really being honest. And I want to play in their half. I think I saw a comment earlier about wanting sustained pressure, and I just couldn't agree more. Like for me, I just want to play in their half, and I want to do that. And for me, I'm kind of using the press in an opposite way, and I'm kind of going Laka just because I think he performs at home. My big fear, I think I even said in the Leicester pod, I felt that he may not have a great game. I thought Leicester may have been the time to put in Odegaard as a start, only because I feel Laka is a different player home and away. And I feel he thrives off our fans' energy. And if we're going to press, which I'd hope we do because that buildup is so poor, I want us to really, really press that goalkeeper, the fullbacks, and let our dominant players at the back eat up those aerial long balls, which I definitely feel that they can. But Z, mate, I'll go to you. Same thoughts as Nom. Would you have Odegaard starting in the lineup?
Yeah, honestly, I just see probably Odegaard starting tomorrow, and it's just the way the game is gonna go. And look, every other game where I say that Arsenal's probably gonna start fast, and it's very much because those games, for example, the game against Villa, the game against Leicester, those games were, for me, must-win games, and they were against two good teams. Regardless of what's happened to Villa, they were very much a good team last season, and they're still a very hard team to beat. So I definitely saw us starting fast, but I just feel like tomorrow, I just can't see us having the same intensity that we started against those two teams tomorrow, and it's probably why I feel like we're probably gonna the way we'll probably play will be a bit more slower paced, and we'll have to be pretty patient, in order to open up Watford. So this is why I feel like someone like Odegaard will be very good to have in the team, because he won't try to force the passes, and I feel like he's got a good eye. He's got a very good eye for passing, so I feel like he'll be very good for us to also retain possession as well, because I feel like this is a game where we will probably be in the high 60s, in terms of possession keeping. So it's probably why I definitely start with Odegaard. I just don't see Lacazette starting. Lacazette probably would be the player that comes on after the 60th minute if we are needing a goal, or we're trying to add more goals to the scoreline. Just don't see him starting at all.
Awesome. Joseph, mate, you're the tiebreaker. So, kind of up top, the boys think it's going to be kind of more of an Odegaard in possession kind of start. I'm a little bit more Lacazette press from the start. Where do you lie? Do you believe that Odegaard will in the kind of this lineup and everybody else stays the same? Or are you with me and have Laka start from the get-go?
I mean, I think Odegaard starting because we are gonna have possession tomorrow, and I think Odegaard is the type of player you want when we are expected to keep that possession. I think the stat is that Watford have the fourth lowest average possession in the league this season, or 41.6%, if I recall correctly. And I don't think this is a game that can start ahead of Odegaard, especially when we're expected to keep the ball. And I do think we're going to start strongly, because that's the trend over the past few weeks, and I think we do need a line breaker, the guy that can get those balls in behind to ESR and Saka on the wings. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Odegaard starting, and of course Saka is gonna eventually come on the second half sometime. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's 3-1, I think here. But before we go to Curran's, I think the one thing that I do believe is going to be important is that close combination play, that press from the start. I think that, the space is going to be a little bit difficult. I do look really at the Saka side as being kind of our best bet of having an open man, because I feel as though that we're going to target Musa Sissoko. But, I think that Cathcart plays more on the left center back, if I remember correctly. And for me, he's their weakest defender. And so I think there's going to be space there. When I'm looking at kind of these predictions for this match, I really don't see them scoring, guys. I'll be honest. I gave all these issues about, what will happen, but I don't know if they score. And maybe, guys in the chat, what do you guys think? Is it Odegaard that you believe that will start and that you prefer, or do you guys think that we should keep Lacazette from a pressing perspective and maybe close combination play? Let us know. And kind of in the meantime, Z, why don't we play Curran's prediction, because he had a special one.
Okay, I got it.
Hi guys, sorry I can't be there right for you guys right now, but just wanted to give some thoughts on this Arsenal-Watford game tomorrow. I'll be there as well tomorrow for the early kickoff. It'll be a good match, I think, and yeah, really looking forward to it. Right, let's just get into it. So we're on a good run of form, and we're looking quite dangerous, but it's that last game before going into the international break, and you want to leave going away on international break. You want to leave on a good note. You don't want the questions to start reeking back in. We need a solid performance. This is a team with a new manager under Claudio Ranieri. I've seen him at times go to a 5 at the back. Josh King looks okay. He looks like he's hit a vein of form as well. So it's a case of looking at this team and seeing, can we put away teams we should be beating now? I think Aubameyang should be on form. I think we should stick with the Alba Lacazette sort of partnership at 4-2-3-1, 4-2-2. In terms of lineup, I don't think I'd change anything. Maybe no, I don't think I'd change a single thing. I think Odegaard off the bench is a very good option at the moment, as he provides a level of control after our these bursts as we've been going on right now. So yeah, I think for me it's a 2-1 win, maybe even a 2-0 win. I'm going to go with 2-0 because I don't really see them as coming forward a lot. I do like some of their players, like Sissoko's looked like he's had a bit of regeneration, as well as I mentioned before, Josh King. There's a couple of things I would like to see. I would like to see us, as I've been saying on Twitter before, recently, go on a bit of a run and not just gas out after about 25. Maybe we can extend that to 30, 35, maybe even 40 minutes this game. I want to see us really turn on the pressure. It should be a win. I'm always nervous doing these predictions because it's nerve-wracking when you know that anything can happen in football, and they do. It's not that they have awful players. I do rate a couple of them, and I do think that Ranieri will have them fairly deep. If they do play 3 at the back, that channel between the centre back and the full back has to be exploited. We have to be getting Bukayo in there. I think we're going to go left to right, build up left, and shoot him right, or we'll try and build up centrally and try and find those channels. I think the link-up play between ESR and Laka and that Tavares side is going to be quite crucial, because you need to be able to break those lines quite quickly and with pace. So yeah, I really do think it should be quite a dominant performance. Obviously it's football, anything can happen, and in 90 minutes when you step in between those lines, you have to really make sure you concentrate. But the one thing I want to see is not one thing, the main thing I want to see is us keeping our line compact. I liked what we saw against Leicester, but today or tomorrow even, we need to push up. We need to be able to sustain a high line and really push them into their own half, because this is not a team where I expect a huge transitional threat. So really push them up, keep them at a high line, and then really make sure that they are under the cosh for most of this game, tire them out, and make sure that they're they're on the back foot for most of this game. If you're around, see you at the game tomorrow. If I do see you, feel free to say hello. But hopefully this will go well. Yeah, that's before I forget, happy birthday, Zico. Have a good one, lads, and I'll see you in a bit. Yeah, bye now.
Amazing. You see that production value, guys. With more subs, more likes, you get production value like that. It was beautiful.
I like the location.
Yeah, that was really good.
I reckon he's having a dump, George. Right? He's having a dump there, and that's how he's done it.
Oh, it's nice to have somebody back up kind of the Laka theory. Yeah, look, you know what? The one thing I want to highlight, kind of what Nam said earlier in the pod, was I really don't care who it is. We all have our kind of subjective opinions on it. Ultimately, I just want us to go there with the intent to control a game. Also, what Z has kind of been saying, kind of critiquing throughout this season, but we need to up our possession stats. I want that this game. So the one thing that I really want to see is, yeah, I want to see that press. I want us to see a sustained pressure, but I want to see a 56, 60% possession game. I want us to see us really control that narrative. I don't need a 4 or 5-0 blowout. In fact, I really don't think. My prediction for this game is 3-0. I do believe that Laka will start, so I think he'll be a goal scorer along with Emil Smith-Rowe and Oba. But for me, I just want a very nice, calm 3-0. I don't believe that they really have much threat in scoring, mainly because they do long ball. They don't have very much buildup in the center. They're so poor at the back that really they're going to go long. And, I don't doubt Gabriel's ability to really step up and attack those balls. In fact, even, if really Tavares is an excellent, has an excellent aerial ability in that left channel as well. So between, Tavares, as well as Gabriel, I think that channel's kind of on lock, and that's really their only out ball. So for me, I would be pretty disappointed if we didn't get a clean sheet, and I just want us to have a very good performance, one that sustains, for 70 minutes at the very least. I want a more Aston Villa performance as opposed to really the 20-minute spell of just absolute insanity, and then we kind of let everybody back into the game. And yeah, I agree. Josh King isn't special, but for me, he's just their biggest threat right now, along with Ismail Assar. He's their biggest link player in terms of bringing people into play. And so if you cut him out, you basically cut the head of the beast, and they don't have an ability to progress. But Noam, I'll go to you, mate, as honorary guest. We do predictions. I know you don't like them. I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you say here after all this?
All right. Well, listen, I think I hate predicting, so I'm not going to say a score, but I'm going to say what Curran said is very similar to what would be in my mind. For me, I'll tell you what it is. I know my mate's listening to this right now. I was at the listening to the Leicester game, watching the Leicester game, and I remember us going 2-0 up, and he said to me, look, we're going to smash them the way that we're playing. And I said, listen, I've got a gist for this team, a feel for the team, where it's at the moment in terms of its development. And I said, what we have to watch is just keep the clean sheet, because I think confidence for the team is more important than just, a 90-minute performance. Because and I'll explain, the 90-minute performances will come, but the stage of development of the team, as a young team, they're still getting to know each other. I think this is where we, as fans, get a little bit impatient. The players are still getting to know each other. They're still trying to figure out dynamics. The dynamics are still in development. That only happens in the training pitch. But I think if we can sustain pressure for a longer period of time than what we've done, that is going to be important for me. Keeping a clean sheet is going to be important for me, because that gives the confidence of that back five, that superiority complex they have. They feel like they can deal different situations. And what's been good is they've had to come up with a Burnley, and then they came up with a team like Villa, and then they had to come up and deal with teams like Leicester, where they changed the tactics up from one half to the other. So I think that kind of exposure to a pace attack, a pure pace attack, and how they cope with that for the defensive five would be really important in the long run development. And us controlling the game would be something as we go along. If we can control the game a bit longer than we have done, those would be the two indicating factors that I'll be looking forward to. If we can do that, that'd be great. That would be, obviously winning the game, but if we can add those two things to our game tomorrow, that's what would make me happy the most. Okay, I honestly feel like the crowd at the Emirates have been excellent, right? So that's been a huge bonus. And I feel like this team, every victory brings that extra connection between the fans and the players, and they identify with the players a lot more than what we did last year. I think last year was so weird. I think we just missed out on so much. I think we haven't realised how much we missed out in terms of connecting with the team by not being at the games, if you know what I mean. So for me, that's important.
Look, I don't want to place too much pressure, but I'll be honest. If we're really speaking objectively and we don't look at the fears about it, Watford as a team, that midfield, that defensive line, I want a domineering performance. Of course, anything can happen. You make all the caveats about there is no easy team, but I just feel that this opponent is set for us to dominate. You know, I could understand maybe some of the Villa, a Leicester, one of those banana kind of, peel type of performances there because they have strong midfielders, they have strong outlets. Here, I would be less forgiving. I feel if we're going to get top four, like my prediction says, in the preseason, these are absolutely the bare minimum of you getting those performances. So for me, I'm with you, mate. Clean sheet. That's what I want. I want sustained performance. And I don't need a big 5-0, like I said, but I want controlled play. I want us to control the narrative of the game and not let it loose. But Z, mate, what do you make of the prediction? Is it going to be a close game, the big blowout that everyone wants, or what do you think?
Well, I hope it's not going to be a close game because I'm going to be at the game and I don't want to, suffer from anxiety, man. You know what this team does to us. But yeah, no, I think we'll probably win like something along the lines of 3-1 or something. I definitely see us conceding because it's just one of those. This is just one of those games where we concede, from the run of play. But definitely see us, outscoring the team, and it's just one of those games where I feel like once the deadlock is broken is when we start flourishing. Like otherwise, yeah, exactly. So we just need to see. I feel like it's a game where we will really need to be patient. So I hope the crowd is on the good side, and we don't have a crap crowd because usually what happens is we don't score by the 30th or 40th minute, the crowd just becomes a bit spoiled and annoying, and I don't want that. I want us to spread the team and get them going. So hopefully we're all patient and we see a good performance overall. I feel like that's what's important. And then after that, we got the 2 weeks, and 2 weeks later we're playing Liverpool. So yeah, hopefully 3-1.
3-1. Yeah, mate. Look, Watford's defensive record is really poor. It's the fourth worst in the division. Just really behind your relegation candidates in Norwich and Newcastle and Aston Villa, ironically. But other than that, Watford have the worst defensive record other than those three. So for me, it has to happen. I think before we sign out, I do want to mention this question. Ola Doten, please forgive my pronunciation. I am a bigoted Canadian, but I hope that I pronounced that right. But any view on their threat from set pieces, lads? I think, look, for me personally, it's a strength of ours. We went from the third worst goal scoring team for set pieces to the best team in the league. And then similarly, our position from set pieces, but also our ability to defend them has been amazing this season. I don't view, I recognize their threat. I appreciate it. But to be honest, I believe that it's a strength of ours. And if anything, we might have a threat from set pieces. What do you guys make of the set piece threat here? I'll go to Nam first.
Yeah, I think, if it was Dawson who played for them, I'd be worried about him because he was a Kabasele. Do you remember those two were very good from set pieces.
He always used to do it order.
So, and even Decore to an extent. And
well.
So those kind of players that they used to have aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
So for me, yes, I think we've definitely improved on set piece. In fact, I think in the development of our team as it's developing and the squad is developing, the fact that we have this set piece gives us breathing space because it means we can do something that I saw Liverpool do in the year they won the title, which is when the games are tight, they could pull out a set piece and a Van Dijk header, and that could be the platform for them to build from for the rest of the game. So if it is getting tight and we're finding it difficult to break the teams down, we've got to make sure we get set pieces and we use our set pieces well in order to be able to make the breakthrough. Because I think the breakthrough tomorrow is key. When we make the breakthrough, we'll dictate on how we will then approach the rest of the game in terms of how we control the game and how we sort of sustain pressure. So I think if we get it early on, then we can, look to sort of capitalize on that, because I think Watford will be in that kind of phase where do they come out of a deep block? When do they come out of deep block? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So we need to make sure we capitalize on set pieces tomorrow. I'm not worried about them having set pieces as long as we don't allow them to get to our in our half. I don't think Watford rely on set pieces. I think what they rely on is space and attacking that. So for us, I think if anything, if we're looking for a breakthrough and we find it difficult to break through their deep block, then we look to sort of capitalize on set pieces.
Yeah, it's why I think, actually, ironically, I know it's not narrative, but it's one of our strengths. They should be worried about it. I'll be honest, from our perspective, guys. I'll repeat it for the comments. I don't know if you caught it, but we are the team that have scored the most from set pieces this season in terms of totals. So it is an absolute strength of ours, and I agree with you, Nom. I think in tight games that you're worried on the balance of play, and maybe you're not scoring or as free flowing as you would be. I really do think that this is an opportunity for us to have that threat, that bow. If for a young team that's inconsistent in possession, that leads to inconsistent chance creation, and it's really nice to have that in your back pocket along with some reliable goal scorers. So yeah, Z, I'll go to you just to lastly kind of comment on that. What do you make? Are you in agreement with us that maybe it's a little bit more narrative on Watford this year? I think they kind of lost their set with they kind of use space more. They want to release Ismail Assar. I think that's their threat. But do you see us scoring from a set piece?
I mean, we can. I mean, because I feel like we don't really use our size and strength when it comes to the set pieces. I think we use a lot more, practice routines, and we saw the game against Villa when Partey was had two front near post headers, and it was in the same game, and he scored from one of them. So it's something that the players are constantly practicing on the training pitch. So if we're smart enough, to have a new set piece routine and we do it against Watford, I'm not sure why we can't score against them. Especially in the fashion, in the same fashion that we did against Leicester, and just looking at the way Saka and Emil Smith-Rowe have been, taking our corners and set pieces in general. They have been immense, especially Emil Smith-Rowe. The whip ball with a lot of pace, and he doesn't have too much height on it. It's perfect for some of the players. Like for example, Gabriel. Gabriel didn't even need to have too much power. He just needed just to put direction on the head on the ball, and it went into the back of the net. I feel like that's something that Emil Smith-Rowe should continue, and Watford should be wary. And just narrative that Watford are strong in set pieces. To be fair, look, they've completely changed the style of play after Ranieri has come in. So I'd be wary to give them some time and see how they fare in set pieces. I feel like they'll probably switch it up and do something different tomorrow. So
yeah, mate, look, I'm excited. I've gone in a little bit hard. I know everyone's a little bit cautious, but look, I really expect a kind of routine win. I'll be honest with you. I think it'll be one of our more statement performances, not really an output, but for me, sustained pressure. I really feel that this is the game that we up that possession count, we up that possession percentage. And, we really go into the Liverpool game off the back of 10 unbeaten. I really think that's the direction of travel. But look, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. We've got a lot planned for the international break. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell to let you know kind of when we post a video. In terms of kind of the guys' socials, I'll let Nom, shout out your socials, mate. So nice to have you back. We got to do it more often.
Yeah, guys, you'll find me on Twitter. Don't worry about that. I'm not so fussed about people finding me. They know how to find me. Those people want to find me. It is good to see you, George. It's been a while. I mean, we've been chatting, but we haven't had a chance to sort of at least hear each other talk for ages.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And Z, mate, you want to shout out your socials?
Yeah, it's private Arsenal _Z on Twitter, and follow the guys CK Pure CKK and Curran at CURRANBOP. Those are the guys that haven't joined us on the pod today. And just keep subscribing. We're close to 700 subscribers. The ideal aim is to reach 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible, because it puts us on a benchmark and we can start striving for more and more. But guys, thank you for the support. Honestly, like in the past month, the amount of support I've seen from these from everyone has been amazing, and it just gives us more encouragement to do more videos and to do different types of videos, to put out vlogs, to put out podcasts and spaces. Just thank you everyone just for the support. Honestly, it just means everything, because when we first started, it was just a little dream of mine personally, to start a podcast and just get everybody, joined in together. And now look, it's becoming something, and I can see the bigger picture. So thank you everyone.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo that statement in the words of some rando on Twitter. It's mad humbling. But look, guys, in terms of the content that we've got planned, we've got a lot planned. Guys, in the comments, let us know if you like those spaces. We did a weird 3-hour space, which I kind of liked. It's not normally my style, but it got a lot of engagement. Let us know about topics that you want to discuss kind of in the international break. We do got a lot planned. We're going to try to do a little bit of different stuff, focusing on some other teams, kind of like that top 4 contender. Maybe we'll do a title race, which we aren't quite in, but maybe talk about other teams, get your perspective kind of on other teams in the league. But make sure that you drop some comments about what topics you want us to address, as well as anything you want us to improve or kind of to address in other pods. But again, this has been us at All Over Passion. Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead, mate.
Just going to say a quick thank you to Joseph for coming in. It's nice to hear from Joseph, because I've been interacting with Joseph and never had a chance to hear him. So it's good to get him on and at least hear his thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, remember, if you do want to get engaged, we have those BOP spaces, which again, we're going to continue because I think they've been a really good hit. So we'll post a StreamYard link for you to get a chance to kind of pop in. But yeah, thank you so much for the support. I want to end that. Really, this is why we do it. We do it for fans like you guys, and to see it kind of grow like this is just absolutely immense. And it's mad humbling. It really is. It really is. So remember, like, comment, subscribe. And we'll catch you guys on the next one with hopefully a 3-0 so I can get ahead in those prediction tables. I kid. But, yep, thanks, everybody, and bye for now.